Imagine waking up on a boat, soaked in cold sweat with no memory of how you got there, only a badge in your pocket and a gut feeling that something is deeply, terribly wrong. That's where we begin. A U.S. marshal is sent to investigate a missing patient on an island that houses the criminally insane. Simple case, in and out. Except by the end of this story, you'll realize the real mystery was never the missing woman. It was the man sent to find her. And once you see what he doesn't see about himself, you will never watch this ending the same way again. His name is Teddy Daniels, federal marshal, grieving widower. He steps off that ferry with his new partner, Chuck, and the first thing you notice is how badly his hands shake. He blames the sea. Seasickness, he says, but watch his eyes. They're somewhere else entirely, somewhere far behind him. The case is straightforward on paper. A patient named Rachel Solando, a woman who drowned her own 3 children and never once admitted it to herself, has vanished from a locked cell in an island asylum for the criminally insane. No footprints, no trace, like she evaporated through solid stone. Teddy is told this is simply a hospital doing difficult work, but every gate he passes through locks behind him with a little more finality than the last. And here's the question worth sitting with before we go further. Why does a man investigating someone else's escape feel, from the very first frame, like he's the one who's trapped? Dr. Colley greets them with the practiced calm of a man who has learned to smile through anything. He runs the facility with an almost gentle authority, insisting this isn't a prison. It's a place of healing, built on the radical idea that even the most broken minds deserve compassion instead of chains. It's a beautiful philosophy. So why does it feel like a performance? Teddy pushes for patient files, for staff interviews, for anything solid to hold on to, and every time, the answers slip just slightly out of reach, polite, professional, and somehow always incomplete. This is where the film plants its first real seed of doubt, not through a jump scare or a shout, but through something far more unsettling. The creeping sense that everyone around you knows something you don't. And the scariest part? You start to wonder if Teddy already senses it too, and is choosing not to look. Then come the headaches. Blinding, sudden, dropping him to his knees like something inside his skull is trying to break free. And with the pain comes her, Dolores, his wife, appearing in flashes so vivid they blur the line between memory and haunting. She's warm, she's loving, and she's soaking wet, water dripping from her body in a room that should be dry. Interwoven with her are flashes of something else entirely. Snow, corpses, a concentration camp Teddy helped liberate during the war, bodies stacked like firewood in the frozen ground. 2 traumas, bleeding into one another. Grief and guilt, sharing the same wound. This is where the direction becomes genius, because every one of these visions feels like a clue about the missing patient, when really, they're clues about the man investigating her disappearance. He thinks he's uncovering someone else's secret. He has no idea he's slowly digging up his own. A hurricane rolls in, and with it, the entire island seems to turn against them, cutting off the ferry, killing the power, trapping everyone inside walls that suddenly feel a lot more like a cage than a hospital. In the chaos, Teddy finds a woman hiding in a sea cave who claims to be the real Rachel Solando. Not the missing patient, but a former staff psychiatrist who says she was locked away for uncovering something monstrous happening on this island. Human experimentation, brainwashing, a cover-up reaching all the way to the federal government. It's terrifying. It's also exactly what Teddy wants to hear, because it means he's not losing his mind. He's uncovering a conspiracy. And that's the trap the film sets so carefully. The story he's building isn't built on evidence. It's built on relief. Because if the horror's out there in the system, in the walls, it doesn't have to be inside him. Deep in the most restricted ward, Teddy meets a former patient named George Noyce, battered, terrified, and desperate to talk. Noyce warns him that he's not investigating anything. He's the subject of an elaborate experiment, a role play designed by the very doctors he trusts, engineered to push him towards some kind of breaking point. It should be the biggest red flag in the entire story. Instead, Teddy hears it as confirmation of the conspiracy, proof he's getting close to a truth someone desperately wants buried. Notice what the film is doing to you right here. It's handing you the real answer, wrapped in a warning so unsettling that you, like Teddy, are almost too rattled to actually hear it. How many times in life do we do exactly that? Dismiss the one honest voice because the lie feels safer to believe. There's a lighthouse at the edge of the island that Teddy becomes fixated on. Heavily guarded, forbidden, clearly hiding something. In his mind, it's the epicenter of the conspiracy, the place where the truth is locked away behind armed men and barbed wire. He's so consumed by it that he barely notices when his partner Chuck vanishes without a trace during a search of the cliffs, and that should terrify him more than it does. A trained federal marshal and his own partner disappears into thin air, yet Teddy's obsession barely breaks stride. Why? Because on some buried level, Teddy already senses that Chuck was never quite what he appeared to be either. The ground beneath this entire investigation is starting to crack, and Teddy is the only one who can't feel it shifting under his own feet. And then, the floor finally gives way completely. Teddy makes it inside the lighthouse, expecting to find torture chambers and government secrets. Instead, he finds Dr. Colley, waiting calmly, along with the partner he thought had vanished, Chuck. Except Chuck isn't Chuck. He's Dr. Lester Sheehan, Teddy's actual psychiatrist, and he's been at his side this entire time, playing along with an elaborate, carefully staged fiction. Because there is no missing patient named Rachel Solando, there never was a conspiracy. Teddy Daniels doesn't exist. Not really. His real name is Andrew Laetis, and Andrew Laetis isn't the investigator. He's the patient. The man they've spent 2 days chasing across this island is standing right in front of us the entire time, and we simply couldn't see it, because he couldn't see it either. Every headache, every vision, every locked door, all of it, his own mind, protecting him from a truth too unbearable to hold. Here's the truth. His mind built an entire fortress to keep out. Dolores, his wife, suffered from severe untreated mental illness. One day, in a house by a lake, she drowned their 3 children, and Andrew, arriving too late to save them, in a moment of unbearable grief and rage, ended her life. He didn't stop her. He couldn't. And that failure was more than a broken man could carry, so his mind did something almost unimaginably human. It rewrote the story. It turned him into the hero instead of the man who arrived too late. It turned his wife into a missing patient he was chasing, not a woman he lost forever. Grief this heavy doesn't just hurt. Sometimes it reshapes reality itself, brick by brick, until the person living inside it can no longer tell where the walls end and the truth begins. Now ask yourself, if your mind could build you an escape from your worst memory, would you even want to leave it? For one fragile moment, Andrew comes back to himself completely. He says his wife's name. He says his children's names. He accepts what happened, out loud in the sunlight, with the doctors watching and hoping this breakthrough finally holds. It's devastating, and it's beautiful all at once, Echo, because you can see, just for a heartbeat, the man underneath the fiction, fully present, fully broken, fully aware. But grief this deep doesn't heal on a schedule. By the very next morning, he's calling Dr. Sheehan Chuck again, slipping back into the fantasy like a man returning to the only shelter he has left. The doctors face an impossible choice now, and so do we as we watch it unfold, because there is no clean, comfortable answer waiting at the end of this. And this is where the story asks its final haunting question. Andrew turns to the man he knows as Chuck and calmly says something that changes everything we think we understood, wondering aloud whether it's better to live as a monster or to die as a good man. It's not a throwaway line. It's the entire film distilled into a single quiet moment. Because in that instant, we realize he might not be lost in the delusion at all. He might be choosing it, walking willingly toward the surgeons and the lobotomy that awaits him, choosing an ending to his pain over a lifetime of carrying the truth. We never get confirmation either way, and that ambiguity isn't the film failing to answer its own question. It is the answer. Some pain is so enormous that the line between escaping it and enduring it stops being a line at all. What makes this story linger long after it ends isn't the twist itself. Plenty of films have twists. It's what the twist reveals about all of us. How far the mind will go to protect us from what we cannot survive knowing. How grief can build entire worlds, entire identities, entire conspiracies, brick by brick, just to spare us one unbearable truth. Andrew's tragedy isn't that he lost his family. It's that some part of him never stopped punishing himself for it, long after any punishment could change a single thing. And maybe that's the quiet, uncomfortable question this story leaves us with. Not who was really guilty, but how much of our own pain we've quietly rebuilt into something easier to carry. So, monster or good man? I'd genuinely love to know what you believe he chose in that final walk, because this is one of those endings that seems to change a little depending on who's watching it. Drop your take down in the comments. I read every single one. And if this kind of deep dive recap is your thing, hit like, subscribe, and stick around, because we're just getting started unpacking stories like this one.